Okay, this is going to be a kind of a brief overview on the stator replacement on a 800 Ranger. This one happens to be a 2011. I was having charging problems, and even after testing the stator with an open load, which would mean unplugging and testing at these prongs here, it tested fine until it was plugged back in and tested under load. That's when I found out that it was not doing its job. So I went ahead and tried to switch out the voltage regulator just as a preemptive thing to try, just to see if it would help before I went ahead and did the stator. And I went ahead and did that, nothing helped. So I got a new stator. I've already pulled this flywheel off. You're going to need a heavy duty steering wheel puller to get that off. You're going to need a metric, I believe it was a 8mm, and a 10mm socket. So once this comes off, you take this nut off, pull this off with the puller. This pulls off, there's a key on this shaft, don't lose it. Then you're near your stator, there's 3 Allen headed bolts to take the stator off. Basically, once those 3 bolts are out, there's a small plate back in here. Don't know if you can see that. There's a plate back there. You can see one of the bolts there. That plate comes off. The stator comes out. This wiring and everything pulls right out. So once you've removed this old stator, installed the new one, take this starter drive gear, lube both ends of it here where it rides on the bushings. I got some grease on the gear, I don't think that'll hurt anything. Lube that up, put the key back on. If your key is in the downward position, go ahead and put this nut on first. Take your socket wrench and slowly rotate the engine around until the key slots up. Put your key in, and then go ahead and slide your flywheel back on. Give it a little move back and forth to make sure it's splined in. Then go ahead and tighten your nut down with some blue Loctite. Actually, put blue Loctite on anything you've taken off. Any of these bolts, the stator bolts, the cover bolts, and this crank nut, blue Loctite. Go ahead and tighten that down. Spec is 80 to 90 foot-pounds. What works best is to hit that pretty hard with 3/8 impact. That'll be about right on the torque. 1/2 inch impact, give it a couple hits, it'll be close. There's really no other way to torque it down. You can try to hold this flywheel and torque it with a torque wrench, but you risk shearing off the key. That's happened before with some friends of mine that have tried that. They have problems with the key shearing off when they torque it that way. So the only other idea I would have is maybe put a pry bar through the drive clutch on the other side to try to hold it while you tighten this up by hand. So do that. Then basically all that's left is to put your cover on, put your crank sensor back in, and hook everything back up, tie it up good, start it up, and go ahead and test again. You should have about, I believe it's 60 volts AC at each leg coming out of there at 4,000 RPM. Some torque specs. Basically any of these smaller metric bolts, the cover bolts, the stator bolts, and this little cover that has 2 bolts for the wiring underneath. 87 inch-pounds is spec. You can go to 7 foot-pounds if you only have a 3/8 torque wrench, and you should be fine there. So anyway, that's a brief overview. It's nothing too complex. The hardest part of the project is just pulling off the flywheel with the puller. If you can get that off, you're home free. So hopefully that can help some of you guys out that are doing this for the first time, and hopefully we can become all a little more educated on this. So thanks.